Hello? Yes. No. You're in as an attendee. You need to use your panelist link. I know there's a panelist and there's attendees. And here, I'll forward you the invite again. Okay, you're welcome. Bye. You're on now.
Thank you. Oh my God, Marydale is the last thing. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing?
Good, good. How about you?
Good. Say, can I ask you a quick question? In fact, just wait 1 second here. I want to. Did you? Who's on right now? I can't.
There's Phil, April, Lauren online.
Okay, so the attendees aren't on. The attendees aren't on yet, right?
They're not, but we
They're
are
here. They're here. The meeting is public.
Okay. I'll ask you later. It's.
I mean, we have 3 minutes. If you want to call me, I'll put my phone number in the chat. Where is the chat? No. Anyway, we'll talk later, Kevin.
That's fine. Hi, Barry.
Hello.
Hi, Ann.
Hello. Anne, you are on mute. Phil, you're on mute. Barry, you're not.
I think my husband does that. He likes to mute me. But anyway, here we are. I just wanted to know if you wanted me to do the timing, Kevin. That's what I was kind of asking.
That would be wonderful if you could.
No worries. How's everybody tonight?
Just fine.
Yes. So I'm just asking, are these meetings ever going to go public that you know?
Actually, no. City council's going back to in-person, like a hybrid in-person, their next meeting. And our city clerk just asked us if she thinks our committees want to go back to in-person. So informally, how do people feel about that while we're waiting for Kate? Do you like the virtual setting, or will you want to go back to in-person?
Well, I guess I'd like to go back in person, but I mean, obviously the Zoom meetings are probably more convenient, but there's something special about having meetings in person.
I think if we could go back in person at least a few times, because who knows what's going to happen in the fall. I mean, it might be we do a few in persons and see, but I think Phil wants to be Zooming from what I can see by his facial expressions. What do you think, Phil?
No, I like the idea of going back in person too. I mean, I do like the accessibility for public comments that Zoom has brought. It's more attendance than we really usually have in person, but I like seeing all of you in person too. And I think it's sort of fun to chat around a table. So I would probably vote to go back to in person.
Yeah, I guess I was going to say kind of what Phil said. I mean, is there a way to have, an in-person meeting where there is options for the public to participate remotely?
I think so, and we can talk about that more. This wasn't really an agenda item. Now that Kate is here, let's go, and we do have a quorum at this point. And you'll be serving as a regular timer. Yes, thank you. And because there's 2 regular members absent, you would be serving as any votes that take place this evening. So with that, I'll let our chair start the meeting.
Okay, welcome to the regular meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee on Wednesday, April 6th, 2022 at 6:02 p.m. I'll request Traffic Engineer Laura Devaney to call the roll.
Member Allison, Member Bergman,
Here.
Chair Haggerty,
Here.
Member Mooney,
Here.
Member Powers,
Here.
Member Solomon, alternate member Coyne.
Here.
I gotta get through my blurb. This meeting is being held virtually, and viewers are welcome to provide public comment online or by telephone at 669-900-9128, and the meeting ID is 885-4215-4673# with the password 071169. If you are watching the meeting and wish to provide public comment, please select the participants icon and select raise hand. If you are participating by telephone and wish to provide public comments, please press *9 when the chair opens the public comment period. When it is your time to speak, you will hear a notification that you have been unmuted. You can press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
The second agenda item is approval of meeting minutes. Before we get to that, I'd like to, Lauren, I think, has provided us with some times on the agenda to kind of help us move along. We've got 2 major items on tonight's agenda, plus some reports. I'd like to try to get to the Vision Zero update by 7:15, if we can do that. So just keep that in mind as we go through the earlier presentations. So let's start with the approval of the meeting minutes. Do any of the members have any question regarding the minutes?
I do.
Go ahead, Kate.
I think, Lauren, there were a couple of places where in the minutes, I can't find them in front of me right now, but where it says Chair Powers accepted or, a solicited comments or something, or closed public comment, and it should be Haggerty. There were 2 places on the minutes where it said that, I believe.
Thank you for catching that. I'll make that change.
Any other comments from members? If not, I'll open this up for public comment on the minutes.
I see one person with their hand raised. I'm not sure if it's for this, but we'll let him speak. Jeffrey Olson.
I am on here, but it's a comment on the public speaking.
So,
For-
so Jeff, why don't we wait? We'll wait until the
Yeah.
next agenda item for that. If there's no other comments on the meeting minutes, I'll close this closed public comment.
Okay, and I'll just ask if there are any objections to the meeting minutes, noting the change from Chair Powers to Chair Haggerty. Hearing none, I'll take that as approved.
Third item is public comment on items not on the agenda. Members of the public can speak up to 2 minutes each. This is the time for the public to comment on topics not on the agenda. We value the public's attendance and participating in the BPAC meetings. Thank you for attending. In accordance with the Brown Act, BPAC will not discuss items that are not on the agenda, but your comments will be noted at the meeting in the meeting minutes. In some cases, DPW staff will reach out directly regarding specific concerns of some topics may become agenda items for future BPAC meetings. Your comments must be limited to 2 meetings. And I'm going to make every effort to stick with this time limit. And Ann is going to be our timekeeper, so she'll hold up her phone once you get to the end of that period.
Okay, we have 4 people with their hands raised. We'll go back to Jeffrey Olson.
Can you hear
you're
me?
on- Yes.
Okay. I'm Jeff Olson, a resident of Sun Valley neighborhood, and I'm urging the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to consider the dangerous intersection at 5th in California. Parents and kids walking and biking to Sun Valley Elementary School a few blocks to the west funnel from the neighborhood into California while delivery trucks unload in the street and cars are busy coming and going to Andy's Market right at that corner. Cars approaching from east or west on 5th often turn quickly over the crosswalk and encounter pedestrians and bicyclists in the street, as there are no sidewalks on California. Parents I've talked to agree we need a better controlled intersection. I had suggested a signal or 3-way stop signs to slow down the traffic. Kevin Haggerty suggested I contact the San Rafael Public Works Department, and I had several email exchanges with Lauren and others exploring possible improvements. They indicated their data didn't show enough accidents or sufficient vehicle traffic from California to warrant a stoplight or 3-way stop, but offered to refresh the paint on the crosswalk and red no parking zones, and possibly providing a safety zone on 5th approaching the intersection. I've also been in touch with Wendy Callens of Marin Safe's Routes to Schools, who said this issue has come up numerous times, and I am invited to their next meeting on April 26th. In keeping with the goals of Vision Zero, which Kate Powers shared with me, I suggest we can do more to protect the parents and kids going to school and the bicyclists who use 5th Avenue bike route. I'm hoping the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee might take up this dangerous intersection on a future agenda, and after proper discussion could help persuade the Public Works Department to provide more improvements, perhaps signs with flashing warning lights, at least during the school commute hours. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this issue to your committee exactly 2 minutes.
Thank you, Jeff. Great job.
Okay, next speaker is Craig Murray.
Hello. Hello, BPAC. Tonight, I have 2 items. One is to request the San Rafael Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee to consider for the next bike ped plan the 101 Smart Gap project to connect the west side of 101 to the east side of 101 and create a safe route for students to the Venetia Valley School. The second item is an announcement that the city of Richmond with Fair and Pierce and community partners will be holding design events on April 12th, 13th, and 14th on the Richmond Greenway to design the significant 23rd Street Bridge as a final connection of the Richmond Greenway with the SFA Trail and the Loney Greenway in the East Bay. Design group will also be discussing the 17-mile connection from San Rafael to Berkeley. And I provided an announcement link to Lauren earlier today. And finally, I just want to provide thanks to the City of San Rafael staff and council and participating in yesterday's Safe Routes to School audit walk with the Venetia Valley Connector and stakeholders in the group. It was a good meeting, really appreciate it. Thanks very much. And my comments.
Thank you, Craig.
Next speaker is Dave Rhodes.
Hi, folks. Apologies for the kid in the background. Got a 3-month-old now. Wanted to just implore the committee to take up a resolution at the next meeting, if not sooner, regarding support of the pilot project at Point San Pedro Road in, I guess it's Eastern San Rafael, you can call it that, Peacock Gap area by Loch Lomond. There's been a lot of debate around that, just as a pilot project to create a bike path. And I think we need to take a position on this to encourage council to support the project, at least in the pilot phase. So I'd really like to see the BPAC take this up at a future meeting. Thanks. That's all for me.
Thank you, Dave.
Tyler Dibble.
Hi, my name is Tyler Dibble. My family lives in the Glenwood neighborhood, and I'm actually calling to support the pilot project on Point San Pedro Road as well. I've got 3 kids under the age of 10, and one of the things we love to do is ride on the weekends out to Andy's Market and the park out at the marina. But while riding our bikes home, the stretch of road between Andy's and Main Drive in particular is very stressful as a parent and, in my opinion, very dangerous. And I think the pilot project will show, or I hope it will at least, that we can accommodate vehicle drivers as well as families and kids who want to be outside and walking and riding their bikes in their neighborhood. So definitely appreciate your consideration, and I hope we can get some support for that project going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
And Wendy.
Yes, hello, this is Wendy Callens with the Safe Routes to Schools. I just want to follow up what Craig was referring to. We did a walk audit yesterday where we looked at a possible connection to the Meadows neighborhood in San Rafael from the Civic Center Smart Station, which would be a direct connection from those neighborhoods in that area to Venetia Valley School. But in addition, it would really provide a connection for all neighborhood people to access to the Civic Center. And Lauren was there. We had Rachel from the City Council and a member of the school board. And I think everyone and members of SMART and Caltrans. And there was a lot of agreement that this was an important connection. And it looks fairly feasible. There's going to be some issues with it. Ownership is the first, because we don't know who owns what pieces of it, and it's in multiple ownerships. There are flood control issues because it goes by a creek, and some other environmental issues that would have to be resolved. So it's not necessarily going to be an easy project, but there's a pathway already there. And improving that pathway would be a great boon for that neighborhood. So I hope that it can be included in your planning projects as well. And finally, I can't see how much time I have left, but I just want to Thank you. I want to reiterate that we have had numerous comments from our parents about Andy's Market on Fifth Avenue and the dangers that it presents. And it's been hard to come up with some solutions, but I really hope we can all work together to find some way to make that a safer place for the kids, because there's a lot of kids that move through that area. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Wendy.
And Kathy Manovi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I wanted to put my support behind the comments that both Craig Murray and Wendy Callens just made regarding creating a pathway for the neighborhoods in the Raphael Meadows area to be able to get to the east side of the Highway 101. Wendy just mentioned that there is a path there, but I wanted to clarify that that is just a dirt path. And what really is needed is to have something that is ADA quality, where it's a safe path. And the other issue, I don't remember if it was mentioned or not, is there are little homeless issues around there that, cutting through fences. So there are quite a few little things that need to be addressed, but could be addressed if it was basically built out. I think part of the problem with homeless getting in there is because it's fairly it's not built. There's not any kind of infrastructure there. So it could be multiple benefits to having that made into an ADA level lit path that's much more welcoming and feels safe to be going through. And quite frankly, there's a lot of multi-unit housing right along Marydale that right now they don't have a way other than very circuitous routes to get to the Civic Center. And it's just a wonderful ability to be able to walk there using that path, but people really need to feel safe, and particularly for kids, having a safe route to schools. Their parents will continue to use their cars to get them to school if there's not a safe walking or biking route. So I just wanted to throw my wholehearted support to that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Seeing no other public comment, I'll close this section. And I'll ask staff to respond to any questions that were raised during public comment.
I think there was one more public comment.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Warren Wells.
Hi, this is Warren Wells, Policy and Plan Director for the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. I just want to follow up on a couple comments made earlier about the Point San Pedro Road project. While this is a county project technically, the project as proposed requires cooperation with the city of San Rafael on both the east and west ends of it, because it's bookended by the city of San Rafael. There was a public meeting held last week in which some residents expressed reluctance about the project, and then we learned over the weekend that the city of San Rafael was withholding its support for the project, which, if it went forward as a county project only, it would provide 500 feet of bicycle lane as opposed to the project as planned, which would be to close the 1.5 mile gap between Loch Lomond Drive and Riviera, as well as improving safety for drivers. In the past 5 years, I pulled this data, 27 people have been injured, had injury crashes in that segment of road alone, most of them drivers. So I don't know whether staff can respond to this question, but I am curious to learn whether it's true, and because I don't want to be wrong on this, if the city of San Rafael has indeed withdrawn its support, its cooperation on this project, and if it is now goes forward for the county to do its section alone within its right of way. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Warren. I don't see any other comments. Do you, Lauren? If not, I will close public comment. And I will then ask staff to respond to any questions raised during the public comment section. Lauren or Rafat, would you like to comment on anything?
Lauren, why don't you go ahead and respond to Fifth in California, and the
Sure.
other issue I'll address about the Point San Pedro project.
Yeah, Fifth in California, we did an assessment, and as Jeff Olson said, the city reported back an always stop is not warranted. I did come up with some other recommendations that include freshening things up and also adding some painted safety zones with some bollards, similar to what we've recently installed on Medway and the Canal, on Mission behind the high school. These are things to really prevent people from parking in the red zone right next to the intersection. And we know we have an issue with like trucks loading out there. So I think that'll really help. We wanted to make sure the businesses were okay with the change before we proceed, but we do have some improvements underway.
All right, about San Pedro, Point San Pedro Road and the county project. We had a public meeting that I described later as one of the worst public meetings that I attended in a long time, virtually or in person. We had over 70 people testify, literally hating the project, questioning everything about the pilot nature of it. When does it end? How does it end? What's the justification for it? Questions that went to the core of questioning the project. What is going to happen if the quarry develops? Do you have a long-term plan, or basically what is plan B? And many of those questions and dismay of the whole public information outreach to the neighbors and everything else. We had a follow-up debrief with Supervisor Conley and Council Member Marybeth, and you know, we sought questions of the county, and the city were not getting the right answers. So I honestly don't know what's the status of the city's support, because the council has not made any recommendation. But the people who attended the meeting, and I don't know how many of you attended the meeting, there was a major public outcry, and we just don't do things like this in Marin County or anywhere else. We just don't. If you have people asking questions, we need to address them before we proceed. And the city at this point have no answers to major issues of this pilot. From day one, the city was in support, and we were support in going alongside the county. The issue is very simple, actually. There is a requirement by the Parks District to provide a bike lane in front of the park, which is about 300 feet, 500 feet frontage. The county proposed the pilot, and we said, okay, we'll go along with the pilot. And after the meeting, we made several options. We presented several options where the county can meet that requirement of the Parks District without taking away the lane on Point San Pedro. So the county is investigating those, and I'm sure there'll be more talk about what are the alternatives that the county would pursue. And I'll stop here and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rafat. I don't have any, as I understand it, we can't really discuss any, the committee can't discuss any of these items because they weren't on the agenda. But I would like to suggest in general that because we do get a lot of comments at various meetings from members of the public who have safety concerns about various locations in the city. And I'm thinking it would be a good idea if we keep a list of those things so that when we get to the our new bike and ped plan, the one that we'll be working on in the future, that we can examine some of those issues that people bring up and maybe try to deal with them in the new plan. And there may not be one specific, someone may ask for a specific solution, but there may be other things that can be done. For example, Lauren mentioned that the restriping and some working on some restrictions around that intersection. That might be another solution. But anyway, I think it's important that we keep a list of the subjects that people bring up and maybe examine them as part of the next bicycle and ped plan. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. So the ad hoc committee updates. So there are two, we actually have three ad hoc committees, but
Sorry, Kevin,
yeah.
the next item on the agenda is actually city update.
Oh, city updates. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we jumbled things around a little bit.
Thank you very much. I apologize. So next item is city updates. And I'll ask April Miller from the city is going to provide updates on a couple projects.
Let's see. I'm sharing my screen. Where the heck is it? Sorry. Oh. I'm just gonna leave it in this view if that's okay.
Fine. Thank you, committee members. We just had a few updates that we wanted to provide today. Go ahead to the next slide, Lauren. So here's a few updates we're going to go over now. I'll go over them in detail. Next slide. One item that Kate will talk about later, but just wanted to let everybody know that the Park and Rec Master Plan is currently underway. And if there's a survey that's being taken right now for everybody who's in the community, so please make sure that you go on the city's website to fill out the survey on what about all the different parks in San Rafael. Next slide. There's also the San Rafael Leadership Institute, which is a program of the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce and has people from the city and different businesses and organizations within San Rafael and Marin County, is actually holding a Bike the Boulevard event. Last year at this time, we opened the Francisco West bike path, and due to COVID, we didn't really have any kind of grand opening. So the leadership class decided that we were going to do an event that highlights the path from Larkspur to kind of between two smart stations, between the Larkspur station and the San Rafael station. So it's going to be on May 21st. And there's going to be a lot of sponsors, and there'll be some free giveaways that we're going to have by the Mahone Creek there, closer to 2nd Street. Next slide. Just a quick update on 3rd Street. As most of you who are in San Rafael know, there's a huge construction job that's happening in downtown San Rafael. This includes installing the Class 4 bikeway that's between 4th Street and Miramar. And I just wanted to give this committee and whoever's listening a heads up. There will also we have weekly emails and stuff. So if you go on the city website, you'll actually get weekly construction updates. But this is just to let everybody know on this call that we're actually going to be closing the sidewalk along the hillside on 2nd Street, so that bikes and pedestrians will need to go down 4th Street and Shaver and reroute for the next probably 6 to 8 months, because we actually have to shift over the hillside, because right now the existing sidewalk, as you know, is like 3.5 feet, 4 feet on a good day. So we're actually shifting the entire hillside over by about 8 feet. So in order to do that, we need to close the sidewalk. This exhibit will be provided in one of our weekly emails that we do for the 3rd Street construction. But just wanted to let everybody know that the pedestrian and bike route, even though it's on the sidewalk now, will be closed. Next slide. And you guys are the first ones to see this. So there's lots of funding opportunities that have come up with the stimulus money and different earmarks and congressional money, you know, around the city and around just California and the nation. So one of the projects that we have listed in the congressional earmarks is to finish the bike path and the intersection at 2nd and 4th Street. So this is going to tee up the intersection. Right now, bikes and peds who are coming down the west end and going on 4th Street have to cross the street 5 times in order to get to 4th Street or to go back and forth. So this is a very preliminary design that we've looked at our concepts to tee it up so that it's significantly less crossings. And so just wanted to share that. There'll be more public outreach. We'll probably be back at BPAC, I assume, in June to you know, agendize this and discuss it further. But just wanted to let you know that we're going after funding for this intersection. Next slide. Another funding opportunity, ATP is a federal grant, Active Transportation. We're submitting a couple applications. One of our applications is we're calling it the Canal Pedestrian Improvement Experience. There's a bunch of different plans going on in the canal right now, and we've received feedback from numerous groups about some items that need to happen in the canal. And some of it's lighting. We've been working with Marin Transit on upgrading their transit facilities, curb ramps, you know, accessibility, different traffic calming in the area, including doing some of the bike and ped master plan suggestions, which one of those is doing a bike boulevard on Canal Street. So we're going to look at doing that and kind of picking up some of these projects that are in the bike and ped master plan. So this is an application we're applying for. So we're hoping that, you know, we'll be successful. It's kind of everything that's needed, or not everything that's needed in the canal, but a lot of the things that we need all in one application. Next slide. And this is our other ATP application. We've submitted this a few times for different applications, but we're going to keep submitting it. This is it's a swing bridge that actually goes across the canal. It connects the Montecito Shopping Center to Canal Street to provide a safer route for pedestrians and bikes that connects the canal to the shopping center and the high school. So those are just a couple of the applications. There's other applications that we're doing. These are the 3 that we are working on right now. And that's all the update I have.
Thank you, April. Those are exciting projects. Does any of our members, committee members, have questions for April? Phil?
Hi, April. These are a bunch of very exciting projects that are cool to look at. Question about the sidewalk along 3rd Street that is going to be closed for 6 to 8 months. Is there currently, or is there going to be signage for bikes and pedestrians earlier about, you know, needing to cut over on whatever it is, Shaver Street, I think, to get up to 4th? And will that be in place?
Yes, yeah, there will be detour signs at Shaver. There'll be some on 1st Street to remind people to go back to Shaver. We'll also have some signs at the 4th and West End, and then at E Street and West. We'll have a bunch of different signs that kind of tell people to go the other direction. We might be able to keep the crosswalk open at East Street for part of the time, which will allow people to get close to there and then just cross over and then go along the north side, because the north side crosswalk will still be open.
Great. Second question regarding the parks plan that's going on. Is that including, does the parks plan also include open spaces like Harry Barbier Park that's run by the city? The name of that, just because that often involves mountain bikers, and mountain bikers have to ride to the trail, and it seems like the BPAC should help them do that.
Yeah, so actually as part of the bike and ped master plan update, we're also going to include a trails plan with that. So next year when that plan comes through, we're actually adding, actually the Parks Department is adding money towards the bike and ped master plan, so that trails will be included with that report and not with the parks plan.
Got it. So that'll sort of be a separate thing is dealing with the trails.
Yes.
Including off-road trails. That's both on and off-road trails.
Yeah, and yes, and this committee will be heavily involved with with that.
Great. Thank you very much. That was all good news from you.
Any other member questions?
It looks like Kate.
Kate?
Thank you, April. I also agree. I'm excited about the projects. I was wondering, in years past, sometimes BPAC members have volunteered for bike events. So I'm excited about the Bike Boulevard event, and just going to throw it out there that you might seek volunteer help from BPAC members if they're needed. I was also wondering if BPAC, if the ATP grants require any kind of BPAC letters of support, but just, I don't know if that's something that's needed or not. And then the last question was, I'm also, not a question, but I'm just really excited that some of the priority projects that are in the bike master plan are being integrated in the canal improvement, pedestrian improvements. I think that's great. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kate. Are there any others? I can't see the raised hand very well. No?
I don't see any.
Well, okay, then we'll turn it over to members of the public. There's an opportunity for them to ask April any questions regarding these projects. I don't, there's one, okay. Lauren, can you help me with this?
I think I just gave him permission.
Okay.
I just had a question. This is Jeff Olson.
Okay.
Wondering about the swing bridge. Is that going to be a mechanical operated by an operator or a user operated thing? It just looks weird. I like it. I'm wondering.
That is one of the things we need to figure out. So we're requesting funding to study it, and if we end up getting money to construct it too, then that'd be great. But we definitely need to study it and figure it out, because the city staff doesn't have a full-time person to operate the bridge, so it'd be some sort of remote or button, or we'd have to figure it out.
Thank you.
Rafat, I see you've come back on the screen. Do you have a comment or?
I was just clicking buttons, Kevin.
Okay. Are there any other comments? April, do you see any?
Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Okay.
Hello, this is Patrick Seidler from WTB TAM. And I just wanted to thank April and the Department of Public Works and the BPAC for all the work that they've been doing on these projects. I think you have a really great group of projects, and the Larkspur Smart Station to the 2nd Street event sounds really exciting. But I just really want to commend you on all the projects that you're advancing. And it's great to see. And thank you all very much.
Thank you. Any more comments? April, do you see any more? Okay, with that, I'll close public comment. I think April has been able to answer questions that have been raised. And I think we can go on to the 5th item, which is the ad hoc committee updates. There are 3 ad hoc committees. The 3rd committee is the Vision Zero committee, in which we have a separate item for. So we'll take that later in the meeting. The 2 other committees are the North-South Greenway update, and Phil can give us an update on that. And then we'll take the Park and Rec Master Plan update, and I believe Kate will give that report. Phil?
Sure. Another meeting with some positive updates of the North-South Greenway as it's moving all through Marin. Starting at the Golden Gate Bridge, a little more information on the Vista Point project. It's fully funded. Because of the timing of the funds, the construction of that won't happen until 2025, it looks like. There are some things in the work that may advance construction potentially. Sausalito has had a few things going on, 2 different things going on with their section of the Greenway. The first is that the city council set aside $200,000 as a construction match for the eventual project on the southern segment of the Bridgeway from Golden Gate Market to downtown. And the city won a planning grant for that, and it's delayed a bit, but that's going to help. The second part is that the city is working on a safety study of the northern segment of Bridgeway from Napa to downtown, which is important because there's been a large number of bike and pedestrian involved crashes there. In Corte Madera, is looking to submit a grant for a project that would improve the north-south connections on the west side of 101 between the Warnham path and the pedestrian overcrossing there. The second thing in Corte Madera is that the bridge over Corte Madera Creek is finally open as of last week. It's not fully done and open yet, but you can currently ride a bike over 4 feet of the path, so that's great. We've been talking about that for a long time. Full completion is expected in May or June. A point that's not technically the North-South Greenway, but it's worth sharing that our House Representative Jared Huffman earmarked $700,000 in planning and design for closing the Bay Trail gap between Remillard Park near Larkspur Land Ferry, all the way to the Anderson, Sir Francis Drake, and 580. So a good way to get to the Richmond Bridge. And then the big one is that SMART earmarked money for engineering and permitting for all of the remaining unbuilt segments of the pathway. So this is to get every missing segment of the pathway shovel ready and competitive for grants. That's a huge one that we've been hoping for a long time. So those are the updates from the North-South Greenway.
Thank you, Phil. I love this positive news. Kate, why don't you give your report, and then if people have questions, we can take them after you finished.
Okay. Just quickly, as April mentioned, the Parks and Recreation Department is conducting a comprehensive citywide parks and recreation master planning process. There's a steering committee, and the BPAC has a representative on that. I'm the current representative, and Tyler was the alternate. Without Tyler's membership on the BPAC, I think that it would be a good idea to get an alternate if anyone's interested in attending the meetings. The meetings will run through December of this year, which will culminate in a City Council and Parks and Recreation Committee workshop before the master plan will go before the City Council in January or February for adoption. There are 3 more meetings. Right now, the public outreach is, as April mentioned, a public survey, which is open through May 20th. The purpose of this survey is to gather some demographic information, identify which parks are visited and are most important to folks, and to clarify what facilities and parks and open spaces and programs are being used versus what kinds of parks and facilities and programs people want to see in the future. My experience with the BPAC plan and putting, the bike ped plan and putting together priority projects is that public comment and public participation is really important into what is included in planning processes in the ultimate plans. So I encourage all of the BPAC members to go online and participate in this survey, and that's at surveymonkey.com/r/capital SAN, capital Rafael, capital Parks, capital Plan. There's a couple of public events planned. One was at the San Rafael was planned at the San Rafael Community Center on March 30th. I'm not sure if that happened or not, but there will be a couple of other opportunities for public meeting to participate in those. And there will be a couple of intercept events, which will be dining under the lights on April 28th and at the San Rafael Farmers Market on May 1st. So I hope BPAC will get involved. An important part of this is access to parks and facilities, and so that's sort of my focus on participating in the plan and how we have infrastructure and to get to the most highly desired parks and recreation facilities. And that's it.
Thank you, Kate. Do any members have questions of Phil or Kate? Seeing none, we'll go to questions from the public. I think Patrick.
Yeah, I'm helping out, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin and April. Phil, I just wanted to echo the comments. Those are a great report on the Greenway. We're very excited. Want to compliment the MCBC and the Sonoma County Bike Coalition for working on that with WTB-TAM. We worked on it for a while, a number of years in the making to get those segments. Basically, what they're doing is they're getting them the environmental clearances and doing 30% engineering and getting the environmental permits for the segments that are proper inside of Marin and Sonoma counties where the train runs. The sole exception to that is the San Rafael connection. And so they're doing the study, the feasibility study, which we hope is going to be coming soon and get that out. And so we're going to be swinging back and looking for you to support that, to be added to the list, to make that one of the final parts of the Greenway in Marin County. And SMART, interestingly, is sitting on, I think, about $80 million cash. And so what we need to do is after we get these segments prepared environmentally and engineering from standpoint to get shovel ready, as they say, is to get those built. So I really appreciate you guys keeping an eye on this. And there's some really good things I think that will come down, and we need to get organized and have the political will to do it. But we can get this Greenway built. The other thing I'd mention is that the Novato Narrows segment is at this point unaddressed. And so that would be something else to come back to at a future time. But thank you for the great report and for keeping track of all that, the committee and Phil.
Thank you, Patrick. April, who else do we have?
Yeah, Shirley should be able to talk.
Okay.
Hi, this is Shirley Fisher. Just to follow up on the parks report, I attended the meeting at the 4th Street, the B Street Community Center, which was a really well-run information gathering from the community session. And there are two more to be planned of a similar format, one in North San Rafael and one in East San Rafael, but they haven't been scheduled yet. So stay tuned. The information should be on the same Park Rec website as where you can also find the questionnaire. There's a link to it there.
Thank you, Shirley. Any more, April? Any more comments? With that, I'll close the public comment and we'll move on to the next item. The next item is the Marydale North Promenade item. And staff's going to give us a report on that.
Rafat, would you like me to share the screen or are you going to?
I'll do it. If I can find it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here we go. We're talking about the Marydale Informational Report. It's a conceptual option that was developed by the community, basically. And we are going to the City Council with an informational report almost identical to this one, just to kind of give an update as to where we are with the Marydale connection. We all understand that the connection is critical to the neighborhood to connect the Civic Center station, Smart Station, and the connection has been identified in the Pedestrian Bicycle Master Plan as Class 1. It's critical because it connects major employment center, the mall, and potentially the residential development application that is being processed right now. I just wanted, the purpose of this is to remind the bicycle advisory, the pedestrian bicycle committee, and the city council that there are community developed options that was put together by a lot of work by a lot of people from the community, many of which are probably joining us tonight. Because of the pandemic and the lack of funding, the project was stopped for about 2 years, and the project remains unfunded. Basically, the idea for connecting the Las Galinas to the Civic Center through via Marydale has been proposed as such. These are the last four options. All four options share the same identical northern section that is from Las Galinas Avenue to the landing of the Marydale Bridge, the Marydale Road Bridge. So the proposal, as we see it today, is reducing the lanes to 2. Right now, we have 3 lanes at the intersection. We ran some preliminary, analysis at the intersection, and the traffic that is there could be accommodated by 1 lane in each direction, allowing room about 12 feet for the trail class 1 to go from Las Galinas Avenue to the landing of the bridge. And then from the landing of the bridge here, under the bridge, all around, the committee developed 4 options. One option, option A, is to have parking on the east side, basically continuing the trail all the way to the entrance where you can someone can get to the station. With all of the options have ideas on dealing with the drainage issues, the turnaround issues, the handicap stall issues, and crossing the street. All of these components are identical, almost identical in all of the alternatives. That is, so the only remaining issue at play here is parking. On which side do we provide on-street parking altogether? So this is option A. Option B, it provides the parking on the west side of the street. And the parking, when I say in option 1, in option A and option B, we're talking about 8 parking stalls on street, and 1 ADA stall down at the bottom. So option B has the parking on the west side. Option C has parking on both sides, which is a full parking, about 15 parking spaces, maybe less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, yeah, 15. And it has a similar turnaround for fire truck, and it achieves the same purpose from connectivity point of view. And option D has the no on-street parking. And that concludes the presentation. And again, I just want to remind you that this is an informational item only. Staff has heard numerous comments from different groups, and we're not making a recommendation to proceed with the project because it's not funded. There is no preferred alternative that I'm presenting to you tonight, nor there will be one for the City Council on April 18th. It's just strictly an informational item. And I will shed some light on why is this at play right now. Maybe this is a question on your mind. Basically, the developer of the Northgate housing project have been talking to the community, and the community mentioned this connection and as a viable connection. We cannot begin to make it a requirement until we see the AIR. There are two ways that this project can come to play, and the developer can have a role in building such a connection. It can either be identified as a mitigation measure in the AIR, or that with the development agreement as a condition of approval of the project, something is negotiated where there's some fair share contribution towards a project, towards the Marydale connection. So we really don't know yet because we don't have the AIR. And with that, I'll stop, Chair Haggerty, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Kevin, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Lauren, I can't see the hands, so maybe you could help me with, or do any members have questions?
Kate does.
Okay. Go ahead, Kate.
I just wanted to say that I participated as a stakeholder with the community, as a part of the community following of this project for the last 4 years in CSW, Stuberstro's concepts. And I think that, you know, one of the things that was important to many of the stakeholders is that this is an opportunity to continue sort of a slow street on a dead-end street that is not an arterial, that is not a neighborhood street with residential parking in front of it. It could be designed to limit through traffic. We foresaw that if you have parking, that people would come in, look for parking, and leave if there's a limited number of parking. And in order to incorporate not only kind of an optimal multi-use path in this area, but also street access for the commuter bicyclists in its connection to the multi-use path along the SMART station there and over to the Civic Center. This is a well-used area that people are starting to increasingly use. And as the Northgate Mall gets developed under the proposal that it's a will be a walkable, bikeable, transit-oriented development, the way to make those projects successful is to have the infrastructure that supports it. So I just wanted to, you know, let people know that the no parking option is an opportunity to also integrate kind of the Green Streets future forward thinking and engineering, where the stormwater would be filtered, continue to be filtered by the green spaces along the street, and there would be enough room if there wasn't parking on either side of the street to filter the water before it runs into Galenas Creek, which is right along the tracks there.
Thank you, Kate. I had one question, and then we'll get to Phil. The parking that you talk about, I think 8 spaces and 15 spaces in the other scenario, who uses those spaces? Rafat or Lauren want to?
You know, Kevin, you know, there are very few spaces right now on the street. I think transit riders might be people who might use those spaces. There's back access to properties. You know, I don't know if we have that information handy, and if we do, I don't know if it'd still be relative. So the honest answer is I really don't know who's using the parking.
Okay, thank you. Phil?
Hi. I realize this is, very early in the planning process again, but I think just like we talked about last meeting when we were talking about the San Rafael connection and Puerto Suelo Hill, about the importance of user experience. This is another project where I think user experience should be rated as highly as possible in the whole scheme of the planning of the project. I see the success of a thing like this is it being a beautiful and fun facility to go through. If it's another bike path through there, that's great. I always like bike paths. I always like the connections, but it seems like this has the opportunity, to be almost a getting to your destination is the destination. It could be designed as a really beautiful facility, with limited car traffic where you'd be safe to go with your family. And so just again, in all of this, when at some point we rank our various priorities, and I would encourage us again to think about the pedestrian user experience, because I think the success of the project would hinge on that. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Phil.
Any other committee members' comments? Seeing none, and I will go to comments from the public.
Okay, first up is Shirley Fisher.
Hi, let's see if I can do this in 2 minutes. First of all, I was also a member of the advisory group with Kate that worked on the designs for about 2.5 years. I would also date way back to 1996 when the 200 people and 3,000 written comments came up with the North San Rafael vision, which had 2 major points among others. One was a town center at Northgate to make a there center of the community in North San Rafael. And the other was to create a spine that would connect the east and west side of communities that were split when 101 became a highway. So I would like to reinforce what Phil said. I think that looking at this from the pedestrian and sort of local resident view is really important. It is a connector between all of the major bikeways going through the area. It is going to be a really important walking and pedestrian connection for the 3,000 to 4,000 new people that are going to be coming to the 1,400 houses at Northgate. So this is going to have a lot more usage than it has right now. It's also really important to think of the green environment and the climate change and preserving the trees and taking care of the stormwater water runoff. So I think looking at all these things, you got a letter today from the advisory group that worked on this plan together with WTC TAM, endorsing the no parking alternative as the one that has the best look at keeping this a green entryway, a place that will be fun for people to walk, or at least be a pleasant experience getting from Northgate to the Smart Station or getting from Scotty's and Terralinda all the way over to the Civic Center. So that's about all I have to say, except that Merlin Geyer has said that they will kick in funding for this, and it needs to be built by the time that people move in at Northgate. So I think this is a much higher priority project than what has been thought of in the past. Thanks.
Thank you, Shirley.
Dean Severinghouse.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to support both Kate's and Phil's vision. I know when I try to bike through there now on market days or fair days, it's already really crowded with people, families with kids, with strollers, people walking their dogs. It's actually on the beautiful smart path a little bit, it seems sort of off-putting to have a bike going through. So whatever makes that area going off to the mall be really attractive for users of all kinds would be a really great thing to do there. So I support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
And Kathy Minovi.
Hi. So yes, I also want first of all, I've also been on the ad hoc committee for this for the last couple of years, and I live in Raphael Meadows, so I have a lot of experience walking this area using the smart path, and of course using that roadway on Marydale to get to and from our neighborhood to the mall area. I want to wholeheartedly support both what Phil and Kate just talked about with regard to this being an opportunity to create a very people-centric space that's very inviting and have it more nature oriented. So we could, of course, choose one of the options that includes a lot of parking or even a little bit of parking. But if we do that, you increase the odds of having interference with cars and people. You would lose opportunities to have more nature-based resources like trees that, you know, carbon capture, the enjoyment of just having trees around and the habitat that creates and the pleasant environment. So I would just really encourage us to think beyond, you know, I know cities like parking, but there's parking on the other side of Highway 101 and plenty of it. And by the way, SMART had planned for their parking to be on that side. I really implore us to really think about the future and this opportunity to really preserve this space for people and not think about it as, you know, oh goody, another parking resource, because it would negate some of the opportunities to make, you know, to really retain and create more natural habitat with trees and just pleasant environment to walk and bike through. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Lauren?
Bill Carney.
Hi, good evening. Bill Carney. I'm speaking on behalf of Sustainable San Rafael tonight, supporting wholeheartedly this project. We have participated with the advisory committee all along on this. Some of your members in the past, Jim Garrity and Jerry Belletto, representing us in that effort, as well as myself. This really is an exciting project. And, you know, I think to really experience that, I would invite everybody to go out there and take a stroll along the existing SMART multi-use path, particularly this time of year. It's the first time I experienced it, was a couple of years ago. And it's just a beautiful, it is a park-like experience. The oaks right now are coming fully into leaf, and it's a beautiful spot and a beautiful experience. And I think this project has the capacity to really extend that and enhance that. So I'd also want to commend the staying power of a concept of the North San Rafael Promenade, and also of Shirley Fisher in particular, and her staying power in holding that vision, you know, lo these many years. And here we are, you know, 2.5 decades later, and it looks like the timing is great to realize this now with the, you know, evolution of Northgate Mall into a real neighborhood center. So this is an important part of it, an important part of connecting that to the whole of North San Rafael. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
And Patrick Seidler.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Patrick.
Sorry, I accidentally muted him.
Okay, you got me now. All right, thank you. First, I would like to thank my fellow Citizens Advisory Group members, some of whom have been working on this since 1996, 1997, as Bill said. Shirley really worked with her community to get this project started, and it's been a real pleasure working with them in the last several years on this. I'd really like to recognize the City Department of Public Works, who embraced it and allowed us to see the vision get complete. And what I would really encourage you to do is, I know we sent our letter to you with the packet a little bit late, but please take some time to review the packet and the materials that are there, because this is not a standalone project. This is years of commitment And it's part of a well-funded, well-thought-out linked Marin County Sustainable Mobility Grid. It's a unique opportunity to complete a critical, important segment of the Northgate Promenade. And I urge you to look at Exhibit C in the documents that we gave you. What that shows is that this connects the promenade with the North-South Greenway, the North-South Bikeway, the Bay Trail, the Civic Center, the Smart Station. And as John Pucher, who's a seminal thinker, really in the United States for, bicycle success and multimodal success, we have a unique opportunity because it's not a throughway street. And so we can turn this into a promenade and a gateway to North San Rafael. And I urge you to look at Exhibit H as well. If you take a look at Exhibit H, it shows you all the parking that's around there. We don't need any more parking there. There's more parking that you can shake a stick at. And to answer the question about who's parking there, I can answer that question. And I think Rafat knows that because I've been out there and done those studies at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's the folks, the wonderful folks at Guide Dogs for the Blind. And, they park out there because it's they have a gate that lets them in and they have easy spot. And so but they have plenty of parking on their spot. So we encourage you guys to support the project as much as possible. And if you can, to go to the city council meeting and just really seize the moment and seize the effort. Thank you very much, Ann. I see it. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Patrick. Lauren, are there any more?
There are no hands.
Okay. With that, I'll close public comment. I did have a question. I think this along with some other projects that we've discussed are really important projects for San Rafael. And I think the BPAC would like the opportunity to provide guidance or advice to the council at the appropriate time. So my question to you is, you're going to, as I understand it, and I think you've explained that there's going to be an informational presentation to the council in a couple weeks or in the near future. At what point in time would it be beneficial for the BPAC to provide some advice or counsel to the city council on this project?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Kevin. And as we prepared the staff report, I left a paragraph out there that says, and the BPAC says. So, we were not done with telling the story. And, I think, we can, assure the council that the BPAC is definitely behind making the connection. As Shirley Fisher said, the community's been after this for 3 decades right now. And, it is an important project, as Patrick mentioned. And there's a lot of, kind of passionate plea from almost, unanimously that, people prefer the no parking. But this is a public forum. If you have a preference on one option and we can agree on it tonight as a BPAC, we'll definitely be happy to take that message to the city council. I mean, if you would like to write anything, that's definitely your purview. You're an advisory committee to the council. If you want us to carry the message forward, we'll do that. WTB did an excellent job. I mean, it put my staff report to shame what they put in terms of materials, backgrounds, and exhibits, and all of that. And I probably didn't present it with the right tone of how much input and how much dedication each one of the stakeholders, participated. I witnessed probably the last year of their struggle to get this project identified. And, I'd like to say, wonderful job. I really commend you for staying with it. And this is the right time to start talking about it right now and make it a priority for the council to somehow incorporate it in whatever that's going on in the area right now.
So what I hear you saying is that in the staff report, you've allocated some space for comments from this committee. Is that what I hear you saying?
That's
and I know we haven't studied it in detail, but I think that the comments that Kate and Phil have made tonight, I'm assuming, and I'm looking at the other members, are ones that all of us support. Would that be fair? That'd be fair, Barry? You're muted.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little reluctant to, I mean, I know what I could say I prefer on first glance, but without some more information. I mean, the bottom line is to see all the alternatives do have a 12-foot path, which I think is the most important piece. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess the need for parking is a big question. If there's no need for parking, there's no need for parking. But just to understand what the different issues are involved and to see what that evaluation is. And I think that's just going to be a little further down the line. But having a continuous path connection, I think, is the critical piece.
Anne, do you have a comment?
I definitely support what Kate and Phil said, and the public. I feel like the no parking option is the way we should go, and especially looking forward to the future. I don't think it's necessary to have those spaces there where we could develop something much more preferable for the pedestrians and bicyclists.
So, Rafat, do you have enough information from what we've just said that?
I captured that information, and I would like, just for the records, since we are recording, I don't want to have anybody's comments you kind of disappear in thin air here. I think what I heard strongly, that the pedestrian experience, pedestrian bicycle experience, and the leaning towards a nature-oriented solution for that corridor is what we heard from most of the stakeholders tonight. And I would like to get a thumbs up on reporting that as a strongly stated preference tonight. All right, great.
Is it helpful within that? That is what I said exactly. I was not explicit that I think the zero parking option would be further those goals the most. And so would it be helpful if we chose one of those options, or just those comments are enough? They sort of speak for themselves, probably.
I think that if you want to write your own script as an individual or as a group, you still have the April 18th council meeting to articulate that. The staff task tonight is to take a glimpse of what happened tonight and report it to the city council as is. We're not, and I think Barry made an excellent point that the major components that, really staff cares about the most is the connectivity issue, having a separate, safe bicycle pedestrian facility to connect point A to point B. And since those options are these components are in all options, we feel that we have, and the stakeholders have developed a solid project that can move forward at either way. The parking, it's a preference. I think that more important than being sucked up in the controversy of parking or no parking is the amenities that are there and the looks of the trail that we need to focus on. But the no parking is probably the cheapest. You might want to make that in your conversation, and it's the most attractive, from what I've seen. But we're not making it's an informational item at this time, and everyone is free to express their opinion related to that.
Kate, do you have a comment?
I do. I just wanted to, I think by saying, I prefer the no parking on the west side because there is a lot of vacant office space that's being, some of it north of there is being considered as opportunity sites for housing. But looking at opportunities for parking on the west side and recognizing that, you know, the Terra Linda folks would cross the highway and park over there if they needed to park. But I do think that this project, by having not only the nicety of trees, but how Kathy Minovi expressed that, you know, it's a climate that retaining vegetation in the space that's already there where the water runs down as natural infrastructure for filtering the water before it goes into the creek and making improvements to make that even better are part of this project. And even though that's not the scope of this committee, it's something that has been discussed in this group stakeholder effort of looking at projects not only as multimodal and transportation projects, but sort of also kind of a multi-benefit and how we can integrate some of the other infrastructure needs of corridors like that.
So I'm hopeful that we can come up with some kind of, or Rafat can get some kind of general agreement or statement that he can put in the staff report, knowing full well that when this project's a little more developed and, you know, with the city's got to formally approve it, you know, we can make further comments. Is that the way to go, you think, Rafat, or?
Well, there's nothing that would prevent us from, you know, should this project be developed to a construction drawings, you know, definitely we can bring it to the VPAC to kind of take a look at it and recheck whether this meets the point. And we definitely, I mean, once the project is developed, we fully intend on taking it back to the stakeholders because they're the people, I mean, some of you have been on that stakeholders group and worked very hard to develop what's in front of us today. So yes, I mean, I think, you know, it's premature to select what option right now. I think the whole goal is to educate the committee and bring them up to speed from a 2 years ago discussion and bring the council up to speed as they sit on the table and create opportunities for the project to go further. We wanted everyone to have an informed position on where we want it to be.
But
So,
I think we want to be part of that early discussion. And if we could make a statement, or you could include a statement from the BPAC that lets them know that we're supportive of, you know, of this concept and of the user experience. And Phil, do you want to?
Yeah, I think Rafat's summary of our comments that he did in his last time, I think pretty much perfectly encapsulates it. And I think that's a good spot to go going forward. And then, you know, when we get further along, we could put a stronger statement or letter if we select a preferred alternative once it's designed. But I thought that was a great summary of the comments of both the committee and the public that called in.
Right. Okay, so let's, again, trying to be conscious of our time here. So let's go on to the 7th agenda item, which is the Vision Zero update. And as most of you know, the BPAC formed a ad hoc Vision Zero committee comprised of Barry, Kate, and myself. And we've sat down and worked with Rafat and Lauren. And I think we're heading in the good direction. Barry, do you want to just kind of give an overview from the ad hoc committee point of view, and then Rafat or Lauren can comment from the city's perspective?
Okay, sure. So just for those folks not that familiar with the Vision Zero concept, Vision Zero is an approach to addressing safety that states that traffic-related deaths and severe injuries are preventable, and it establishes a goal of eliminating them. And so the Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan identified as an action item the adoption of a Vision Zero policy by the city. So as Kevin said, the ad hoc committee working with staff, we put together a draft of a Vision Zero policy to be brought to the council. And so we're bringing that to the committee for discussion input tonight. And so just a few things that are in the policy. I'd say, first of all, we want to acknowledge, the work that the city has done on safety-related projects this far. This is not something that, it's not like safety has not been considered before, but what it does is it pulls it together in a different way. So, obviously April went over some of the projects before, some pretty significant safety efforts. But with Vision Zero, part of it is that this is calling for a comprehensive approach. So it's not purely about engineering. And the intent is that this would also just elevate consideration of safety into the development of future iterations of the general plan and other city plans, and to think about the trade-offs that are involved between safety benefits and some other things, such as there may be increased delay for drivers, and so there are things like that that just need to be brought into the discussion as part of the trade-offs of making safety-related improvements. So what we are including in the draft, in the resolution to the council, was first of all an endorsement of moving ahead with a Vision Zero action plan. So to take the policy, more as a statement of the direction and the intent of what the city would do, and develop some actions growing out of that, and also to call for a process that would involve multiple city departments, a range of stakeholders, building equity considerations and issues into the development of priorities and safety-related improvements for the future. So we'd welcome input from the rest of the committee and from the public, and so we can take this forward.
Rafat, would you, from a city perspective, would you like to comment on the work we've done together?
Definitely, thank you, Kevin. And I think we are going in the right direction. And again, I'd like to thank you for your hard work and your dedication to push this agenda through. Sorry. Let me mute my phone. I'm sorry. Basically, what we're taking to the city council is what we would like to take to the city council with the leadership of the VPAC, is to get them to approve a resolution endorsing Vision Zero. And part of that is to allow us to proceed in developing a Vision Zero plan. The Vision Zero policy on its own is an excellent first step, but it doesn't have any teeth. So we would like to develop a plan on how we're going to implement Vision Zero. It has a lot of advantages, and of adopting a plan right now will give us a better chance at some of the funding sources that are out there. TAM is considering right now, the Transportation Authority of Marine is considering a county-wide or region-wide Vision Zero policy, that it wouldn't hurt if we are ahead of the curve by adopting the Vision Zero right now. Before, I mean, what we intended to do is to bring the very first draft resolution to the rest of the committee tonight, and they view it. Isn't that the plan? I mean, I'm wondering. So let's. I described the concept of what we worked towards, and we should go step by step and say, do we have the full committee concurrence with with this resolution and maybe start working, maybe go back to the table and start working on timing and how we could achieve these goals. So does Barry, do you have the resolution, the draft resolution? Do you want to project it or should I look for it?
You're gonna have to make him a co-host to.
I think it's in the BPAC agenda packet.
Yeah,
It's
it
in
is.
the agenda packet. Barry, if we want to share it, I'd ask if Barry could share it so I can monitor comments and stuff.
Okay. It might take me a second to pull it up, so I'll give it a try.
While you're doing that, Kate, do you have, as a member of the ad hoc committee, do you have a comment you want to comment to, or?
I'm excited about this work towards, this was something that we had as a goal in our adopted 2018 bike ped master plan. Just excited the work with the ad hoc group, but also with Rafat and Lauren, and a lot of input from, Barry's expertise helped, put together a resolution that seems great. And the other part of this I just wanted to say is that I look forward to the next step of an implementation or an action plan. And I hope, that what I value with BPAC as a committee of that the public has an opportunity to come forward and bring concerns and projects and participate in a way on infrastructure projects, especially transportation infrastructure projects, that if there wasn't a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee and work towards like the Vision Zero plan and the update of the master plan, like you said earlier, Kevin, that the public's interests on projects can either apply to specific projects that the BPAC is evaluating during our agendas, but also it could be a place where people could bring things that we could further incorporate in implementation plans of Vision Zero or action plan. And I'm thinking of, Jeff's concerns about the Fifth Avenue and near Andy's Market in Sun Valley, and some of the other things that were brought up during public comment tonight, that we have both plans that we can then incorporate and look at these projects as possibly being part of the planning implementation.
Thank you. Barry, you ready to bring that up, or? Okay. Lauren, is he a co-host? It doesn't look, can he bring it up if he's not a co-host? He can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I'm sorry, should I read through this or do people just want to read it themselves?
Why don't you just walk, if you can, you don't have to, you can just walk us through it maybe without reading every word.
Okay. So just with, the various clauses, so basically stating that, that no traffic fatalities and severe injuries are acceptable. It notes that MTC has adopted a regional policy, as Rafat said, the county is looking at doing the same. And then it mentions the identification of a Vision Zero policy in the bicycle pedestrian master plan. Cites speeding as a critical element because of the survivability of lower speed crashes versus higher speed ones. Does indicate that the city has made various priority improvements and that a comprehensive approach is needed, and a broad range of stakeholder participation and equity, as I mentioned before. So and I think I need to scroll down to get to the rest of it. So then the items, number one is adopting the Vision Zero approach as a guiding principle for various planning activities. That this should be carried through into various other city planning efforts, and development of a Vision Zero action plan to identify specific steps forward, and then to convene a working group which would bring the various stakeholders together.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Do any of our members have comments? Anne?
Thank you for all your work. I think it's excellent. I just have a question more about the vehicle speed. I understand that's a fact. However, I don't feel in San Rafael, some of our issues have to do with the vehicle speed, like it was brought up tonight with the Sun Valley situation. And I just wish we could put in there more wording that could say, I mean, you could keep that in, but like, couldn't we, I think your next one, you're trying to say prioritize pedestrian safety needs, but perhaps we can do more to add the pedestrian safety needs when the speed might be 15 to 20 miles an hour. We could do more flashing lights. We could do better, crosswalk notifications, zebra crossings, or however you want to do it. But I feel that to me is a higher priority, only because I think changing the speed limit is also more of a legal thing that's more difficult, but I don't think it's that difficult to raise the pedestrian safety needs and the other things we can do to make pedestrians safer in even slower, not 40-mile-an-hour zones. I'm saying 20, 25-mile-an-hour. Thank you.
Phil?
Yeah, I just sort of want to say for the record, very supportive of Vision Zero, but full credit to Lauren and Rafat and April. Since I've been following projects in San Rafael, you all basically do this anyway. And so, thank you for championing this and for designing all your projects this way. I'm glad this is down in writing. I hope it gets you more leverage and support when you're making these decisions. And I hope it gets you more recognition for the work that you've done in all the years I've been following it, in the 10 years I've lived in San Rafael. That's all.
Thank you, Phil. One of the issues that I brought up that Rafat and I talked about is I fully agree with you that the staff's done a terrific job in addressing these issues. But what happens if Rafat leaves, or Lauren leaves, or April leaves, and someone else comes in that doesn't share that same view? And that's why I think it's important that we memorialize this policy by the city, so that no matter who's running DPW or who's doing the planning, there's some policy in place and some guidelines to follow.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think this is a great idea. Yeah.
See, who else do we have? Is everyone commented? That's
Kevin,
from our board, from the members. Go ahead, Rafat.
I think what Anne suggested is an excellent idea. I think most of the Vision Zero resolutions that I saw had something about speed, and speed is directly correlated to safety. But I don't want this to sound, and I'm glad you picked on this, Anne, is that I really don't like to portray this as the first step to change speeds and as an action item. I think it's a lot bigger than I even can comprehend about this work profession. Vision Zero is not even about specific staff, being believers in it. I think Vision Zero is truly an action plan that is a systematic approach to developing priorities in the city and putting all eyes on it from different stakeholders within the city. It's not a public works initiative. It could be an initiative, but it's not a public works task. It is a citywide and maybe countywide and maybe region-wide task. And I think instead of what I heard Anne suggesting, that maybe tone down the speed, maybe we can talk about all crashes are preventable. The reason why we call them crashes and we no longer call them accidents is that a crash is a preventable event. An accident is just an accident. So maybe we can talk about preventable crashes and that there are ways to eliminate those. And I would like to talk a little bit more about the equity in transportation, in spending our resources. I think we need to elevate the equity maybe higher on the whereas. And I also have, from hearing some of you talk, I think that we need to also include the county and what levels on the county that the resolution should realize that the fact that the county has a roadway safety plan and that we need to endorse that and incorporate it into our Vision Zero. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Rafat. If the members have, if we've commented, I'd like to get comments from the public. Lauren, can you help manage that? I can't see the.
I sure can. So now for the public is the time you can raise your hand. We've got one, Dave Rhodes.
Sure. Thanks, everybody. I think it's really important that we support the adoption of this and get the city to really own it. It makes citing our position on improving pedestrian bicycle infrastructure and safety in our community that much more doable when there's a stated policy that the city has adopted. So, for example, supporting and endorsing the Point San Pedro Road issue, the ones in any issue, anything that we want to try to advocate for as in the committee and in the community can be a lot more effective if the city has officially adopted this policy. So I think it's a really important one. Safety in general, it's about any means by which we can achieve safer streets, community in a community is important. So I think we got to encourage this. So thank you, and thanks for your work.
Lauren, any more?
Jean Severinghouse.
Hi, I think it probably bears more discussion about what it actually means, Vision Zero, but I wanted to support that it has a very important function that I think is recognized by funding entities. For example, the Active Transportation Program, they actually, in the priorities and in their rubrics for scoring, they actually really pay attention to whether a city has a formally adopted Vision Zero policy. And you want every single point you can get on those grant applications. So I think it bears more discussion, so people are kind of on a page about it, but wow, great work, great advancement. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thanks, Jean.
Jeffrey Olson.
I just wanted to concur with the two comments before me that an official adaptation gives it a priority and gives something everybody to refer to, that the city has adopted this as a goal.
Thank you, Jeff.
Patrick Seidler.
Hello, thank you again for the great work. And I would echo Ann and Rafat's comments, most particularly on how to implement some things in addition to the speeds, like what could be good. And maybe there's some model language, and Barry probably, I know this stuff is really, it's doing very well across the country. And so to get the best language in it, particularly how it hooks up to the other parts of the equation, I think is really important. And I would echo what Phil says about the DPW, everybody, the DPW team is really good job getting this front and center. And this is gonna be a great policy and a great program, not only in, San Rafael, but the county, the state, the country. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
And Wendy. Last one.
Yes, it's great to see San Rafael taking a lead in developing a Vision Zero policy. If it, whatever you come up with could be a model for other cities to do as well. Been working on the Vision Zero policy for MTC. And so this is something that really is spreading across the country, really. I know that some of you might be aware that of the Street Smarts program, which is an education program, which is really, just one piece of a comprehensive Vision Zero program. But we are coming up with some new visuals and new education slogans and such with Street Smarts. Lauren has been participating with us. And we really hope that what we come up with for Street Smarts can be incorporated into your Vision Zero policy. Thanks.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. So with that, I'll close the public comments. I'm very interested, as being a member of the subcommittee or the ad hoc committee, I'm very interested in moving this forward too. So I know there may be a need to further tweak this a little bit. What I'd like is for the BPAC committee to maybe authorize its ad hoc committee on Vision Zero to work with the city to tweak the language and then move it forward to the council. Is that, Rafat, does that make sense? So we don't have to wait another 2 months to come back and with a final version.
If that's the direction of the committee, we'll work with you gladly to achieve this.
Does any of the committee members have comments regarding that strategy?
I don't know if it was put on the agenda as an action item, but I would like to, if it was, I'd like to make a motion that that the BPAC, let's see, is it down a little bit further? It's just a presentation, a recommended action. Oh, just input. Okay. I mean, I'd like to move the resolution forward as I make a recommendation that that tweaks be made and that this resolution is a recommendation for this resolution is from BPAC as an advisory committee is put before the city council for their approval or adoption.
Do we have a second on that?
I can second.
Okay. Discussion?
I'm in agreement.
Should we take a vote? All in favor of proceeding with that strategy, raise their hand or say aye.
Aye.
Barry, you can stop sharing your screen.
Rafat, do you need, in terms of additional assistance from maybe the ad hoc committee, you need us to continue to work with you to refine the language?
I think one more meeting to incorporate, the equity higher, preventable crashes, county road safety plan. Maybe I think I really like the idea of countermeasures or street smart programs, and maybe we can have a whereas where the country is moving towards strategic implementation of safety projects, and kind of shed some light more on what does that do? And then maybe we should discuss the timing and the resources. I mean, we're going to be asked questions when we get to the city council as to how you're going to do this, when are you going to do this, you know, and many other questions from the council and the public. So we should have one more meeting to strategize the direction and the next step.
Okay, you're talking about one more meeting with the ad hoc committee.
With the ad hoc.
Because the BPAC is just sort of endorsed, as I
Yes.
see it, this okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I did, before closing out this item, I did want to acknowledge the great assistance of Lauren and Rafat in this effort. I think this is a major achievement if we can work to get the council to approve it and then work on an implementation plan. And without their support, it would be difficult to get this accomplished. So thank you very much.
Actually, I have a question, Rafat. As far as timing, if this goes to council and then and the council says, yes, we want to endorse this and adopt the Vision Zero policy. So one of the measures here calls for development of a Vision Zero action plan, but I don't know what, I mean, imagine the city's already or in the process of developing a budget. I don't know if there's anything that can be done to get funding in line for it to be for the next fiscal year.
That's a very good question, Barry, and that's, you know, Vision Zero is really, it's not just a slogan. It's really getting the collective vision of a community, and we need to talk a little bit more about a formation of a stakeholders group to move this forward. If the work of the group becomes intensive enough, we might find, you know, they're going to be asking, you know, how are you going to fund this? And I'm still struggling with this because we don't have the funds allocated specifically to complete this task. So it's going to be Lauren and I trying to wing it and move forward with the stakeholders group. There is a possibility of putting something in the CIP, and we probably give that option to the council to fund it somehow. I don't know. I really don't know what might, if we're able to manage it within the existing resources, or maybe we can direct some of the operational budget to have the help of a consultant continue the task of an implementation plan.
There's also the question of, you know, I know with the bike and ped plan update coming up and how the two efforts would interface, because there'd be a certain amount of overlap, but other things are not going to be the same. So just, I'm not sure what the answer to that question is, but just,
you know, I think April wants to say something, but let me, but I will go to the chair to allow her to speak. But I want to make one distinction, that if we're really serious about a Vision Zero, it's, and I gave that a lot of thought. The bicycle pedestrian master plan is a higher planning document that says, you know, this is the completion of the network should be like this. It's in nature, it's a different document than an action plan that says, before you consider projects, you have to go through the steps and include all these stakeholders, consider equity, consider, you know, emergency fire access, all the full spectrum of stakeholders input in every project. It's a different process than identifying the network need and the physical need of, it's almost operational what we're going to be developing here as a Vision Zero. So it's different. It's not just updating the plan, the you know, it's not just adding a few more words to the pedestrian bicycle master plan.
Okay. Did April want to comment or?
I was going to suggest combining them because we have lots of plans in the city. So if they're in one, like less plans, adding a whole section on it, but Rafat just countered my.
Okay.
I'm sorry, April. But I hope you realize what I was saying is that, it's a much more involved than just implementation of the pedestrian bicycle master plan.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll conclude this item. Next item is possible future agenda items. Anyone have suggestions? I'll make one comment that just came up. And I think Kate had mentioned this before, and I think Barry just mentioned it, is I think we need to start thinking about the preparation of the next bicycle and pedestrian plan, master plan. Maybe, Kate, do you remember how soon we need to get that out? But it's going to take some time for planning purposes. And we need to think about when we should begin to agendize that item.
My recollection was that I thought, and Lauren, correct me, that every 5 years we needed to update our plan in order to qualify for funding for some things, that we needed an updated plan every 5 years, but I could be wrong. The last time we updated the plan, we started a year in advance, and it took longer than we thought. And so just that was why I had brought it up a couple of times too, is just kind of staying ahead of the game with funding opportunities, etc.
I also heard 5 years, but I need to double check. Maybe it's 5 plus or minus 5.
Well, can you double check on that, and then we can try to figure out if we need to do it in the next couple weeks to get started, next couple months, or next, I guess, couple meetings. Maybe we can talk about that. Phil, I think you had a comment or suggestion.
Yeah, it seems like we probably ought to talk about the Point San Pedro pilot program, assuming that it's not too late to talk about it 2 months from now. We have not, I had always thought of it as a County of Marin project, but clearly I thought about that incorrectly, because a large part of it is with the support of the city. And, and as Rafat explained, there are a lot of homeowners wanted more. And when he was giving his response, it seemed like it was sort of, almost up in the air in terms of the support from Public Works right now, support from the city right now, just as we're waiting for some unanswered questions. And so hopefully 2 months from now, those questions could be answered. And I think it would be potentially helpful for us to give our input, give our strong input on the direction of Public Works. I think this is, pretty good timing. We're talking about Vision Zero, right? And you're getting a lot of feedback about cars wanting to go fast in this project area.
Anyone else? Barry, Ann?
Just as far as the 5-year thing, I mean, I know there is in one of the statutes where it talks about 5 years, but there's also plenty of jurisdictions that have bike and ped plans that are older than that. And I do remember years ago that I had spoken to someone at Caltrans who had said that it was legitimate, at least according to that person, that it was legitimate for the council to reauthorize the previous plan. So I don't think we need to worry about, it'd be good to get confirmation that approach is good, just so we're not like under the gun and trying to ram a plan through in order to meet a deadline. But I believe that should at least retain the city's eligibility for any funding.
We should get clarification on that. The last plan was dated 2018, so. Ann?
Yeah, I would like more clarification or information on the path that people were talking about tonight from the the Venetia Valley School and how they wanted that path to work. I feel it's important for us to understand and to be educated in that, and then maybe we would add that to the plan, but I feel like that's something we just need more clarification on and more information about.
Okay, let's put that on the list.
Didn't
We
we,
could get an update.
didn't we talk about that? Like maybe last time?
What the members were bringing up tonight at the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah,
About-
the
Sun
path.
Valley, is that the Sun Valley?
No.
There were two. There was a Sun Valley one, but I was talking about under the freeway to the Civic Center and Raphael Meadows neighborhood.
We didn't focus on it. It may have been brought up in public comment, but there was no item.
I don't think I quite understand what the path would be, and somebody mentioned it goes through different properties. I just think we should all be educated on what they are talking about and where they would want the path, and if it's feasible. I'm just not that clear.
We did not talk about it. You're right, Ann. We did not talk about this connection on the Marydale on the other side. And, you know, it's noted that we will bring it in future meeting. I mean, that's what Kevin is asking, you know, what would you like to see at future meetings? And
Sure.
we'll bring some more clarity to that.
Thank you.
For some reason,
New
I thought
information.
Craig Murray gave us a presentation or one of these times. Anyway, the other thing that could potentially be worth talking about it if it's time yet. April presented just a one slide on the intersection of 2nd and 4th turning in, and if that's going anywhere where we need feedback, that's obviously a very important intersection for us. But it might be premature for next week to do that. But if that is moving along, I think we should talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a very important one. You're right. That's true. What would be happening there?
Okay, let me, I think we had one comment from a member of the public for a suggested item. Lauren, do you want to follow up on that?
Jeffrey Olson.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate my wish that in some future agenda, maybe not the next one, but when it's appropriate, to review the past and current proposals to address 5th and California intersection. I know that the Safe Routes to School can have a meeting, and I'll attend that, but I'm just would love to see a more focused discussion on that issue and some kind of a timeline for then implementing the improvements. So that could be an agenda item I would hope for.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Looks like there are no more comments. So with that, I'd like to suggest that we adjourn the meeting. And Lauren, our next meeting will be in June, I believe.
It'll be June 1st.
Great.
Good meeting, Kevin.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone. I missed it by 2 minutes, but we
You
started
did
a minute late.
fantastic.
So thanks for all your comments and suggestions, and thanks, member of the public, for showing up and commenting tonight. We'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on Vision Zero.